When COVID-19 hit, many people lost their jobs. Women lost their sources of income. They had to deal with unpaid care and the burden of domestic work. In 2020, the United Nations estimated that 232 million women will be living in poverty in 2030, compared to 221 million men due to the negative financial impact caused by the pandemic. So in this week's episode of The She Word, we look at COVID-19 and its economic toll on women. We also discuss the division of matrimonial property, and we seek to find out, why were women hit harder by job losses than men? Welcome to The She Word, for real talk on the stories connecting today's African women. I am Azizat Olalua. Many women across Africa earn less than their male counterparts, have fewer savings, and make up majority of single-parent households. COVID-19 hit them hard, and they lost their sources of income. The BBC's Grace Kuria spoke with some of these women in Kenya. They shared their stories on how they turned to online micro-savings groups to invest and stay afloat.
It has been a tough period for 37-year-old Anne Karogo, who runs a nail parlor, salon and sells second-hand clothes about 98 miles from Kenya's capital, Nairobi. In 2020, when COVID-19 hit the country, she had to close shop and send two of her employees home.
I couldn't afford rent for my shop, so it was getting to arrears. Yeah, I had like now 4 months arrears, and then my house too. So it was a burden for me.
To cut on cost, she had to go back to her parents' home together with her then 2-year-old daughter. In the capital, Nairobi, 25-year-old Elizabeth Wanjiru had just cleared her college studies in the year 2019, and the future looked bright. While in college, she was making money on the side while working in the hotel industry.
I couldn't wait actually for 2020 to come because I thought, hey man, that this was my year. But then March came, and then COVID came, hotels were closed, so it became extremely tricky. There wasn't work to be found.
The fact that even her parents' source of income had been affected by the pandemic did not make things any easier. But she's not one to easily give up. She ventured into selling clothes and shoes online, but that too failed.
Financial wise, it reached a point where it just felt impossible. Like now I was even on, now what do I do next? You know, I'm stuck.
As women's activist Memory Kachamba would put it, COVID-19 only exemplified what women were already experiencing.
Less women than men are employed in the formal sector, and for those women who are employed, there's a huge pay gap in terms of what men earn and what women earn, despite doing the same job as well.
When COVID-19 struck, a lot of things changed. Among them, physical meetings. People could no longer meet face to face, even those in chamas, if you like, micro-savings groups. And that is when a lot of people embrace the idea of an online chama. It is during this time that Keitwa Gladys online micro-savings groups, which she started in 2015, gained traction. Here, netizens would save money to buy various items such as household goods, electrical appliances, and even property.
People saw the essence of saving. Like so many people didn't have anything to fall back on. I love when people tell me, I thought a washing machine is something I would never buy in my life, like it was for rich people. There's so many people who have now seen a big fridge is not a big deal. You know, a beautiful bed is not a big deal. You can get it. You can build a home.
A year later, Anne, who embraced the online micro-savings group, was able to restock her shop and is nailing it.
Having this chama, you know, you get whatever you get to invest. Mostly it's investing, and the kind of investment, you have to be safe, you know, that even if we go for a lockdown, whatever I have done, I won't go back to where I used to be.
Women like Anne constitute majority of the employed workers in the informal sectors, but with no any form of social security in most African countries, many like her remain stranded after job losses as experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Why do we think women were hit harder by job losses than men?
I think women were more hit by the job losses than men because let's face it, women work in services sectors, in sectors which were hardest hit by the COVID pandemic. So sectors like the retail sector, sectors in the services industries, in the tourism sector. So businesses were hard hit, incomes were sort of reduced, and people unfortunately were impacted heavily financially. And we can see people had to now start, extending their last cents. Women are already paid less than men. So imagine now the impact of reduced income, reduced business income flow. In South Africa, approximately 1 million women lost their jobs due to the pandemic because businesses were closed down.
I think more women were just sort of comfortable with the low-skill jobs, arguably. And so during the pandemic, more women realized the need to go back to more skills, go back to their first love, sort of realize what they could do to bring more money to the table.
I think what COVID did was actually reveal the gaps, not so much set back people, because as much as before people had money coming in every month from their business, what we see is people didn't put that safety net, that financial cushion. But it's about that culture of I should have a safety net. And I always ask women, can you survive 3 months if something happened to your source of income? Can you survive 6 months? Can you survive a year? Because what women felt is that it happened instantly and they didn't have that time to restructure. It revealed that we've got to start saving for investments that creates additional sources of income. So when you don't have your normal income coming in, there's still some money coming in to sort yourself out. So even how we invest is moving away from passive things or just household things to things that create value, create wealth for women.
The research has actually shown that this whole pandemic has set gender equality a generation back. That's a huge impact that we still have to overcome. Now, certain measures would definitely be needed to overcome the gap. Certain government interventions, certain private sector interventions to ensure that women, this gender gap, equity gap is really bridged. We're going to need solution policies that will drive these solutions. It's not just about talking, but actually implementing so that women are at the forefront.
Building wealth is a marathon and not a sprint. With or without COVID, it's been a lot of struggle for a lot of women to save and adequately invest. But with COVID, it became a more paramount issue to be sorted. And the emergence of private sector companies, organizations, investment clubs, investment groups helped women sort of come out of their shell to see how they can improve and they can get better with their finances. In Nigeria, we have seen the emergence of a lot of cooperatives, investment clubs, leveraging technology, providing knowledge for a lot of women, and a bit of governmental assistance to also help women.
Definitely, incomes were disrupted all around. But I think what it has exposed for women is, were we doing it properly in the first place? So I think what I have seen is a lot of new interest in learning. If I'm running a business, how do I run it properly so that I manage my money properly in my business? I set up the processes and the structures that actually enable this business to grow. So what I think also happened for us women is we started to see, yes, we were living, yes, we were comfortable, yes, we were making ends meet, but were we actually progressing or were we running around in the same circles? There are a lot of cultural issues around financial empowerment of women that has to be addressed, and then mix that with it's time for women to learn. Let's just not learn to survive. Let's learn to advance, let's learn to progress, let's learn and believe we can hold the keys to wealth for our families, our communities, and our nation.
Talking about savings and maintaining their economic power, groceries, rent, clothing, transport, salon, makeup, entertainment. These are some recurring expenses on the African woman's budget. But does she know where exactly her money is going? What common mistakes are women making with their finances? Arese Ugu, author of the book, The Smart Money Woman, shares some insights on this.
Great to have you, Arese. Now, financial freedom is an important topic for today's African women. Why is this?
Oh my God, I think the first thing is, if you think about it, we're not taught in any formal framework how to keep money or grow money. We're taught to get a good job, start a business, and it's all about, the focus is always on earning. But if you think about it, a lot of people get past that earning stage. So you get your first job and then you make all these mistakes because no one has taught you about good debt and bad debt, about applying your limited resources in a way that help you to reach your goals, about investing, about what financial freedom really means.
Now, in your perception, who exactly is a smart money woman?
A smart money woman is someone who's working in her purpose. She's a woman who we all aspire to be. She's financially fearless, she sits on boards, she executes, she just doesn't talk about her ideas. And you know, she finds the balance between living a good life and making good financial decisions that will not leave her in poverty.
How can today's African woman become a smart money woman?
It's about knowing better and doing better. It's not about perfection. Having all the financial tools that you need to be able to make better financial decisions.
All right, now tell me, which are some of the biggest mistakes women are making when it comes to spending?
I think one of the biggest mistakes is we're not taught what wealth really is. For me, being wealthy is when you get to a point where your assets give you enough passive income to pay for your lifestyle.
Lastly, Arese, how can a woman best track her spending?
Okay, so I always say the way that you spend 10 naira is the way that you'll spend 10 million. I think it's extremely important to start tracking your spending to see where your money is going. Is it going in a way that reflects your values and your goals and the things that you want? I personally still use an Excel sheet and my phone, and just it's about being present. It's about me thinking, okay, so this week, what did all the money that I spent go to?
Thank you so much, Arese, for those great insights.
We now take a short break, but when we come back, we discuss the issue of division of matrimonial property. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the She Word for real talk on the stories connecting today's African women. A High Court judge in Kenya ruled that being a housewife is a full-time job that should be payable. According to her, housewives should not say they don't work since they provide services in the home that are otherwise outsourced and paid for. Let's hear the story of Mary Wambui, a divorcee who was awarded half her marital home during her divorce settlement.
If housework was to be quantified, it's a lot of work, and you start it in the morning, and even by evening, it doesn't end. It's like a vicious cycle. It does not ever end.
She thought she lost it all after leaving her matrimonial home following 13 years of marriage. Yet, she had put in much work.
It is work. Even if you try to pay for it, it's not possible. It's a lot.
Mary, a mother, grandmother, a divorcee and an employee, had to juggle between raising 3 children while also working at a local university.
I have to come from work. I have to cook for the children. They do their homework. I wash the utensils. Then after they sleep, I sit down and read, because I was pursuing a degree.
All these responsibilities were sometimes too much for Mary.
I was ever tired, and there's a time now I snapped and I was admitted in a mental ward.
In 2002, Mary filed for divorce, and the next thing was to file for the division of matrimonial property.
He wanted to sell the house and take all the proceeds for himself, which was not fair.
The case lasted 10 years in court, until recently, when Justice Teresa Matheka ruled that the matrimonial home would be sold and the proceeds divided into 2.
What this means for the African woman, it means respect, it means recognition, it means appreciation of the quantum of work that the African mother do in the home.
Matrimonial property is any property that is acquired during the subsistence of the marriage. So once you get married, any of the property that you will acquire together after or during that period of marriage is to be regarded as matrimonial property.
The wait was long for Mary, but it bore fruits at the end of the day.
The final ruling made me feel like I had not labored in vain. It was worth the wait.
In Africa, the burden of taking care of the home is majorly on the woman. So I think I agree with the Kenyan judge that domestic work should be acknowledged as actual payable work, right?
Absolutely. I completely agree with this ruling. And I think it's time for people to start understanding value. 2 people in a house contributed value, and for so long, the work of the woman has been neglected. So many times, the value that women bring by looking after the house, by looking after the children, and sometimes doing that even while maintaining a job, is not taken into consideration because it's purely about what did you spend or what did you contribute financially. Whilst in a family, contribution is not just financial, it's the time somebody else has spent in making that household and that family run.
Money gravitates towards value, and money is also used in exchange for, providing services. When you provide services, you should be paid for it. So at a family level, when you do domestic chores, you take care of the children, you are providing value, and you should be compensated for it adequately, because if you were to outsource those functions, you would have to pay for it. Women should be adequately compensated at any level for their domestic support.
Absolutely in agreement. When you provide a service, you're adequately compensated or paid for it. If you're a stay-at-home mother or housewife, you are providing a service to the household. Therefore, you should be compensated adequately. I like to sit down and usually ask women this, if before you get married, you need to have these discussions to say, what value am I going to bring and how am I going to be compensated for it? If you're going to be working from home, you're providing value. You and your significant other need to sit down and decide to say, during our marriage regime, if I'm providing this service, how much should I be rewarded for? What are my investments? What is mine and what is yours? And in South Africa, we have various marriage regimes which protect women. So there's certain marriage regimes in community or property. You share everything you own equally as a couple. out of community of property, whatever you own or bring into the marriage is yours and his and hers. Out of community of property with accrual, you both accrue whilst you're married. Whatever you accumulate, both of you share equally. Now, these are some of the things that as couples we need to be talking about, and I absolutely agree with the judge's ruling regarding compensating women adequately for the service they provide and they bring to the household.
You know, culturally, many women are deprived of getting any form of settlement once they leave their marriage. And there are rarely laws across Africa, you know, protecting women's rights once they divorce. So do you think there is need for African governments to, you know, make clear legislations on this?
Absolutely. And it first starts with recognizing what are people doing within the context of a family. So first it's saying in the family setting, first of all, let's start there, that a woman does not have less rights financially because she did not bring the money in or was earning less money for the same reasons we have discussed already. So that is just the bedrock of understanding that a woman still has the same financial rights. Once as a society we understand that, then the government can then go and start saying, then this is how we can cushion women. These are the policies. But more than the policies, it's about what are we doing to change the mindsets of the communities, of the societies?
We know that women bring in more than financial contributions. Like we already said, there's that emotional piece, there's that presence that women bring, there's that stability, there's, you know, just so many other things that women bring to the table. So in my opinion, I think the government should weigh in, because even in Nigeria with the settlement of property, if a woman has to remarry, the property reverts back, you know, to the former husband. It shouldn't be. So the government should come in, and just, you know, provide legislations and laws that would help, you know, more women lay access to some of this property in case of divorce or separation.
Now, ladies, no one is coming to save us. That is very clear. We as women need to push the policies, push governments to implement some of the policies that will favor us as women. What are some of these policies? Gender inequality. Let's give access to productive assets. Assets like land, property. If you have assets like property, equity, owning shares or investments in companies and businesses, small businesses, closing the gender asset gap, investing in small-owned businesses as women, creating policies that favor or lower barriers to entries for women entrepreneurship. These are some of the key components or policies that government can work with to practically implement some of these policies that will favor women and actually improve our livelihoods as women and access to assets or being kept out of participating in key parts of the economy.
Thank you, ladies. It was nice having you. It's been 27 years since the Rwanda genocide. Since then, the East Africa community has risen from the ashes, ushering in a generation of entrepreneurs that are putting Rwanda on the world map. One of them is fashion entrepreneur Sonia Mugabo, a survivor of the genocide. She's famous for dressing first ladies and other icons in the world. She shares her story of resilience and a second chance at life.
What makes me unique is I'm not a typical African designer. I do use wax if I like the print, or I do use, you know, kitenge or kente, but I just don't want that to define me. And I think that's what makes me unique, because you don't know what to expect. I started my brand because I had nowhere to shop after living abroad for quite some time and coming back. I noticed that there was I can't say a lack, but there weren't many options to buy clothes. And I found this as an opportunity for me to start a clothing brand because it's something that I was really passionate about. And I could see that it's also something that would help the economy of Rwanda, for example, job creation. I'm sharing my story through my clothes, and I don't want to be limited. So I use different prints, I use different colors, I use different cuts, but there's always some things that you can always tell because it's feminine, it's elegant, it's comfortable, It has a day to night versatility. You can make it seem very dressy or very non-dressy. So it's really, I just want it to be like an essential. When the genocide against the Tutsi started, my parents had to find ways to protect us, and we actually went to an orphanage. It's called the Gisimba Orphanage. Gisimba is actually still alive. It took a toll on me. I always tell my friends this, that if the genocide against the Tutsi had lasted 2 more weeks, I would not be alive. Because even though we had shelter, but we didn't have enough food. Being so young, I didn't have the right nutrients. At some point, I was separated with my parents, so I was with my sisters. And so all these things took a toll on me. They would shoot people in front of us, and I didn't really understand what death was at that point. You're very young, but you see someone falling, you see blood. They don't get up again, and it's like, what is this? So growing up, I used to always have nightmares about this. And I discovered at a later age, I think I was 20 years old, that it was PTSD. But positively, it has also given me I'm resilient. I have a survival instinct. I'm able to, not give up. I know where we came from, so I appreciate, the now. I appreciate, what life is, because I saw life not being given the value that it has. In life, you have to go for it because you have nothing to lose, and just go for it. If you fail once, try again. Don't care about what people say. It's really about you.
Amazing work there, and we wish her all the best. That's all we had for today, but be sure to catch this and more exciting episodes of the program on our BBC website, www.bbc.com/SheWord. You can also join the conversation on social media platforms using #TheSheWord. Thanks for watching and see you next week. Goodbye.